You'd think a Pokemon like Weavile is only supposed to be used as a physical attacker. And well, I mean, yeah, it is. Base 45 special attack is never supposed to be used, but today that's the plan, or at least we're gonna try. I'm gonna set up a nasty plot to get a quick +2, and then we've got some good old stab options with Ice Beam paired with Dark Pulse. We can actually bust out Surf for some sneaky coverage, and an extra 30% damage from Life Orb goes a long way. Literally no one in their right mind will see this coming, so we've got the element of surprise on our side, which should be pretty sweet, and it's gonna be a fun challenge. So lately I've been on a real kick of using Pokemon in the opposite way that they're designed to be used, and it's total nonsense, but also pretty fun. If you're into that kind of thing, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. And with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so my opponent is going to go ahead and lead off with the Flygon. Now, Flygon can be a couple different options. It could be a Dragon Dance set, could be Choice Scarf, or potentially a random special set. So as Quagsire is here, I'm just going to lay down some Stealth Rock, look derpy in the process, and figure out what it wants to do. So it does turn out to be Dragon Dance, and that's actually fine. With this specific Quagsire, I've been running a lot of Water Absorb, but this one's actually unaware, so as he's dancing in front of me, Quagsire just literally doesn't see it. Buddy is... The lights are on, but nobody's home. So that's actually nice because as they're setting up in front of me, they're not going to be able to get too much damage being able to set up. So at this point, I'm gonna set up a little layer of spikes. I'm going to make my life a whole lot easier in the back, being able to do more damage to stuff and punish switching. They decide to go for the Earthquake, and they probably realize that I'm fully defensive, and this Quagsire doesn't give a damn. So I realize now I should probably start going for Surfs. And as they set up another Dragon Dance, that's kind of fine. You know, I don't have any ice coverage, but Surf is still going to do a nice little bit of chip damage. And as long as I get through this Flygon without having to use too many resources, we should be fine. It is, in fact, scary to everything else I have on my team, but Quagsire doesn't really give a damn. So Surf doesn't do a whole lot. They continue to Earthquake. Looks like they can kill me in about 2 more, and I'm just going to continue firing off Surf, because once again, it's going to be bad if I lose Quagsire to this Flygon. Then I'm kind of, you know, pretty deep against a fellow that's pretty fast and hits hard. But luckily, I can finish it off with another Surf, and that takes care of it. So Quagsire does his job. We set up a layer of spikes. We set up the Stealth Rock. Get rid of the Flygon, but unfortunately, we're pretty low in terms of being able to handle anything else. So as they now bring in the Charizard, this fella gets absolutely destroyed by Stealth Rock, first of all. But also, I'm low enough to where I can just be taken out here. And Quagsire's not super useful, so I'm going to let it go down. And I have a little bit of a plan here. So they do go for the Terra Blast, just neutral. It is enough to take care of me. And I am like, who wants to come in here? The unlikely suspect is going to be the Weavile, of course. But I do have a plan, once again. So looking at their squad, Weavile actually has a higher speed tier than everything they have, which is not uncommon. This fella be zooming. But if I can go for that Dark Terra, I can allow myself to live any type of fire coverage the thing wants to throw. And then I can set up a little nasty plot. And once I'm set up with a nasty plot, it's looking like we've got some pretty good potential for Special Weavile to get doing some nasty nonsense. So I put the Ghost on my head. It's mostly there for things like Mach Punches and just trying to gain myself some immunity to fighting, but sometimes you need to do it just to be able to take an attack. So I, of course, outspeed. I set up that nasty plot, and all of a sudden we're looking pretty scary on the special side. I mean, kinda, not that crazy, but we do live the Flamethrower easily. And at this point now, I can fire off the Surf. No idea why the hell Weavile gets Surf, but Cowabunga on his ass, that takes care of the Charizard. And it's good against the opposing fire type. So that takes care of Zard. And now we get to see kind of what their options are going to be, being able to take care of the Weavile. I also noticed they don't have a whole lot of priority options. So as they bring in the Hydreigon, I'm thinking, you know, this is a 3-headed fella that is potentially going to go for a Terra. If I bait out the Terra and just go for the Ice Beam, that's fine regardless. But they actually do not. I can outspeed. Luckily, it's not Choice Scarf, and that just obliterates his ass with an Ice Beam. So, you know, that takes care of another pretty scary threat. And while we are losing some Life Orb chip, that's fine. We're basically in a position here where, once again, we're faster than anything that doesn't have a Scarf. And also, as Galvantula comes in, a usual, you know, Focus Sash suspect, he is going to get some pretty solid chip from Stealth Rock and Spikes. That brings it down easily to range where Ice Beam should be able to take care of it. I am also faster, and an Ice Beam is able to squash his ass like the spider he is. And it's still very strange to see Weavile using Ice Beam or just any special attacks in general. And it's, you know, the element of surprise is kind of fun, but also if you just set up, sometimes you can get some pretty good chip. Also, the great synergy with the Stealth Rock and the spikes, because as the Alolan Sandslash comes in, Buddy's looking pointy, but also with that Stealth Rock and Spikes damage, it's actually just in range to where a Dark Pulse should be able to kill. I'm hoping if it doesn't kill, I can get a lucky flinch, but it just obliterated. So that takes care of the Alola Slash, and we've got ourselves down to 4 HP with our last hit with the Life Orb left in us, and we're gonna go down with the ship. We will be able to knock ourselves out, but also their final mon is a Tyranitar, and I'll tell you what, homie went for a Terra Ground for some reason, probably just out of frustration, and now that actually, a Surf is able to drown him, and that's gonna be the end of the match, and Weavile gets the body bag that he deserved, and also complete nonsense. But I mean, that was just ridiculous, and that's gonna bring us into the next match, because we're not fully satisfied. So this time my opponent has an interesting squad, and we have one goal, and that is to pretend like this Weavile is going to be a physical sweeper and surprise him with the special attacks. And it's easier said than done, so let's go ahead, let's get into it. So this time my lead is predicted as hell. They're going to lead off with the Vileplume just because, of course, the Quagsire is kind of an obvious lead, and while we're allergic as shit to grass, this is a bad time for you, boy. And I kind of imagine they're probably just going to go straight for that grass coverage. Rather than getting fancy, I'm just going to switch right into the Hitmontop. I can take any special attack because I'm Assault Vested and max HP, and then I also have some good coverage with a triple axle. So instead, they actually just go for the Leech Seed, which is annoying, but it tells me a little bit about what Buddy's working with. It's probably just a standard kind of physically defensive Vileplume, which will be really satisfying if I can get it to be Ice Beamed, by Weavile. But at this point, I'm just going to go for that triple axle. Again, don't want to get too crazy just yet. I feel like the playstyle just a bit, and they are going to end up switching into the Skeledirge. They do likely just predict the triple axle, but also, I mean, I can't really touch this thing. I do have Earthquake, but I don't really want to get Will-O-Wisp either, and Hitmontop's pretty useful. So the triple axle comes through, gets me a little bit of chip, which is fun, but also then I'm just giving the big suck from the Leech Seed. Pause, which, it's unfortunate. He's able to get some good health back. And also, I'm losing a bit. So I have no business staying in here. I can go for an Earthquake. But the thing about Skeledirge, it doesn't die. I liked Skeledirge when it first came out. I absolutely despised this thing. It's always unaware, and it's always wearing heavy-duty boots, so it never cares about hazards, and it Will-O-Wisps you, and then it Slack-Offs, and goddamn, it's just the most annoying playstyle ever. But they go for the Will-O-Wisp as I switch into the Quagsire, who, doesn't really care that much about being burnt, because honestly, my main priority at this point is getting up my Stealth Rock. I've been kind of switching around this set a little bit. I actually, a lot of the time, run Toxic over Spikes, which in situations like this, I would love to get this fella Toxic, because that would be nice and helping me out down the line. But I go for that Stealth Rock as they actually, to my surprise, they stay in. They go for the Hex, which, since I'm burnt now, it does a bit of damage, and I'm actually not in range to where I can take another one. So I'm like, of course, the Skeledirge just has the matchup here. I can, get some decent damage on it, but at this point, I'm realizing it's probably not worth conserving the Quagsire here, and I gotta figure out a different way of getting around the Skeledirge. I'm at least hoping it's not wearing heavy-duty boots so we can switch back in and take some Stealth Rock chip, but they actually end up going for the Torch Song. Probably just predicting the switch, but also they get that special attack boost, which makes this thing hit a whole lot harder, and I just set up a layer of spikes, so now I at least have my rocks and my spikes up, so that's gonna be super good, because honestly, if there's anything you need to know about this special attacking Weavile, it needs all the help it can get in terms of already having some damage on the fellas he's attacking. So with that, I do get taken out by another Torch Song, and that brings it to +2 special attack. Homeboy's got the doubled special, and it's actually, this crocodile is a damn threat at this point. And he's got a little Tweety bird on his head, but did not let that discount from the fact that this thing is scary. So I don't have a whole lot of options to hit this thing hard. One thing I can do though is bring in Terrakion, and at this point I have to risk a Stone Edge hitting to be able to grab a clean kill here. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm Choice Banded, it's stabbing, it should be able to take care of it, but they got different ideas. They're actually gonna pull out the Terra Fairy, which is gonna allow it to have a neutral hit from the Stone Edge, but then I'm still thinking, hey, this is still gonna do a lot, and honestly, at least forcing the Terra is still pretty good. Now, it doesn't kill, because of course not, and then I get burnt, because if you don't kill the Skeledirge when you think you're gonna have a bad time instead. And now I got wrinkly armpits and a burnt face, and that's, kind of a bummer for Terrakion being able to do anything moving forward. So, at least, honestly, I'm still feeling like it's a pretty good trade-off. I do connect on both Stone Edges, so hey, I can't complain that much, and it does take care of the Skeledirge. So, it is gone, and also they now have no option to Terra in the back, and honestly, that seems way more valuable than having a burnt Terrakion. So them not having the ability to Terra out of anything is going to be great. Terrakion is burnt, however, and they've still got some pretty big threats in the back. So first, they bring in the Dragonite. Now we also notice this thing does not take the Stealth Rock, meaning it is heavy duty boots, and also it's gonna have that multi-scale intact. And I decide it's my best bet to just go for another Stone Edge. Luckily, I connect, which is actually pretty damn lucky, but I mostly wanted to do that to be able to break this thing's multi-scale. Just need a little bit of damage to then be able to make it a whole lot easier to deal with. And they do, in fact, go for a Dragon Dance, which makes old Tiny Wings over here scary as hell. No idea how he's carrying himself with those little ass baby ass wings, but he does, and now he can fire off an Earthquake, and that's going to be able to take care of my Teriyaki-on. So, I mean, at this point, I felt like as soon as he got burnt, he was kind of wasted, but at least I connected on my Stone Edge, so guys gonna live to see another day. And now I can switch into whatever I like. So honestly, a +1 Dragonite is bad news. It's faster than everything, and I'm like, if there's anybody that has a chance of living, maybe, you know, the Hitmontop. I'm not physical, but I have max HP, and they actually go for the Earthquake, which I live with 3 HP. They for sure thought that was gonna be able to kill. It doesn't, luckily for us, and then the Triple Axle is gonna be able to finish off the Dragonite. It's always risky clicking Triple Axle also, because it's like, not only sometimes is it going to miss, but also sometimes it just hits once and then you're screwed. But luckily, that's going to take care of it, and hell yeah. So we're getting through it. And now, they're able to bring back in the smelly-ass Flower of Death. And, you know, this thing's definitely going to be a physical defensive wall. But I'm like, you know, I'm just going to go for the Triple Axle here. I can get some good damage, and it, of course, not only hits once, but also then I get Effect Spored, which is just horrible. And then I die to a Rocky Helmet. So I was like, well, I mean, I wasn't going to get through the first one anyway, but it still feels like salt in the wound. I just got absolutely destroyed, and, you know, I didn't get a whole lot of damage. So here's something of valuable information. They go for the Strength Sap on the turn that I die there. So I'm actually thinking this is a good opportunity for me to bring in Weavile, and knowing that they have Strength Sap, they're for sure going to click it against a Weavile. You know, ordinarily, I rely on my physical offense, but this time I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot, thinking maybe they go for that Strength Sap. It's going to basically give me a free turn to set up. And then I'm also not super afraid of what Vileplume does. So they do go for that Strength Sap, and that's perfect because, you know, they drop my attack, but also it allows them to heal. But I've got myself a Nasty Plot, and I'm thinking as long as this thing doesn't have a Sleep Powder or anything like that, I'm actually in a pretty good spot here to just go for another Nasty Plot. And that's exactly what I'm going to do because, once again, yeah, I have base 5 on my special attack, and I need all the Nasty Plots in the damn world. So they do actually go for the Leech Seed here, and that's pretty great because now it's like I'm feeling like, all right, I've got +4 on my special, and I've surely got myself a good matchup here. And after the setup, I'm feeling pretty good here. I'm free to go for an Ice Beam at this point. They have no ability to tear it out of this weakness, and that's going to be able to take care of it. Important to note, I think I did need at least 2 of those Nasty Plots to be able to grab that satisfying, you know, full kill on the Ice Beam. But hey, we did it, and now we get to see what they want to do to deal with a special attacking Weavile. So they're actually going to end up bringing in Goodra, but the thing is thick as a bowl of oatmeal, and ordinarily is like a Salt Vest potentially. If it's a Salt Vest, that's going to give me a bad time. This is the one situation where I'm like, you know, actually there's a lot of situations, but in this one specifically, it's a bad time to be a special attacking Weavile against a special tank that is weak to ice. But I'm thinking if it's a Salt Vest, they can live in Ice Beam. And if they do, they're probably going to fire off a Flamethrower. So I'm going to go for the Terra Ghost just in case. And as I go for that Ice Beam, it's actually going to end up killing it with a crit. And I think the crit mattered, but also it depends on how this thing was built. I'm going to pretend like it, you know, didn't matter because Weavile's the GOAT, and that takes care of the Goodra. So now I'm just Ghost typed for no reason, but hey, that's fine by me. And we actually have the ability to just outspeed and kill literally everything they have left, but it's going to get more interesting than that. So first they decide to bring in the Tree Turtle, and Torterra over here just obviously gets destroyed by it. I could probably be, you know, -2 special attack and still have a chance, and that's going to take care of it. So Torterra down, don't have to worry about any crazy Shell Smash shenanigans, and their final mon is going to end up being an Electivire. And as they bring this thing in, I'm thinking this is fine. I just got to outspeed here, and Ice Beam kills it, and then just stonks for the Weavile. A hell of a good time, and especially with the spikes and the Stealth Rock, he's already coming in just looking, you know, bandaged up. So they actually, it outspeeds. It goes for the Wild Charge, and that shows that it's actually Choice Scarf, and that's confusing. I was like, oh shit, it outsped me. It's definitely Choice Scarf. They probably didn't want to lock themselves into something knowing I have options, but maybe they're just confused. Regardless, this thing is now faster than the 2 mons I have left, and that actually gives me a little bit of trouble here. But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? Bandette is actually in a position here where I should be able to live one of them, right? Like, there's no way this is able to kill. They can't get any extra damage with a Terra. And all I gotta do is connect on a Poltergeist, which is scary, but they go for that Wild Charge, and I do live, because Banat is kind of bulk? I don't know. It hurts itself a bit. Luckily, Poltergeist does not miss. In that Choice Scarf that once screwed me, I'm able to beat the shit out of him with it, and that's pretty satisfying. So that takes care of the Electivire, and that is going to be the end of the match. So that was a fun one. Weavile being able to do some stuff is always great on the special side. And yeah, with that, listen, I have one more. I got a little bonus match, because I do want to get some more value out of the Weavile, because it's just ridiculous. And I will ask, at this point, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you should hit that like button. It helps out the channel. The algorithm's like, hey, cool, people want to watch, and helps me out. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this time, my opponent's going to lead off for the Arcanine. And Quagsire's like, hey, that's pretty good. I don't have to worry about dying from a single blade of grass at this point, and while we get intimidated, that's fine. I'm just here to set up my Stealth Rock, and you already know the drill. Quagsire is just a chill guy. He's just a chill dude, and he's, you know, not as chill as soon as freaking Venusaur comes in, because obviously they're just going to swap right into the Venusaur, and at least I get my Stealth Rock up, which is pretty good. Next time Arcanine comes in, going to take a nice little chunk. And also, I imagine the Venusaur is probably here to go for something like Sleep Powder, and it's kind of annoying when you don't have a grass switch in, because I'm like, who wants to be put to sleep? And I realize, you know, at least Hitmontop has a position where I can take any special attacks with the Assault Vest, and then I also do, again, threaten with the triple axle here. So I bring in the Montop, we're just dancing around. Turns out they're going to go for the lead seats. The Hitmontop's being lead seated all damn day out here. Fun fact, I could actually Rapid Spin to get rid of them, but at this point, that's actually better than being put to sleep. So I figure that's probably fine, and I can now just go for that triple axle. But of course, now this just kind of warrants them switching right back into the Arcanine. We've got ourselves, it's an interesting matchup here. It's kind of a game of cat and mouse. They want to use the Venusaur against my Quagsire. I want to use the Hitmontop against their Venusaur. And then Arcanine can just come back in, and I do get intimidated. Also, the Stealth Rock doesn't do anything, so freaking dog wearing the boots, but he's got the Tims on, and I do get some good damage with the triple axle as I get a crit on the third one there, which is always nice. But again, I get freaking lead seated, and now Arcanine does threaten some good damage on the Hitmontop, which I do need to try to keep healthy. And at this point, looking at him, like, you know, really, there's no reason for me not to go back into the Quagsire here. I do get some momentum. Unless they double switch back into the Venusaur, I'm in a spot where the Quagsire should be pretty nice here. So I bring it back in. We're looking nice and slimy, and they actually go for the Play Rough, which is great because it doesn't do anything, and also they get the Rocky Helmet chip. And now I'm like, this is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and start stacking some hazards. Again, going for those hazards when they don't have any clear hazard control, or at least easily able to get rid of them. I can start to stack those up and really punish the switches. So they actually decide to go into my long lost poop-like colored and shaped brother, and the Clodsire is just looking like he's in pain over there for some reason. But I get up my spikes, and that's pretty good. And also, I have a way better matchup than this one does against me because I have the super effective Earthquake and Surf. It's probably Water Absorb, but I'm just going to go for that Earthquake. And I'm also faster, and I do over half, which is great, which is free damage. It's free real estate, but also this allows them to go for the Toxic. Now, Toxic is not good. Quagsire does a great job of walling everything they've got except for the Venusaur, but now puts me on a bit of a timer with that Toxic. They probably realize it's one of their best ways around this Quagsire is to slowly whittle it down. I don't have any recovery, and the Toxic is just going to be annoying. So I realize I'm just going to go for another Earthquake as they actually protect. And that means that this thing is incredibly annoying. It's just going to try to Toxic stall me, grab another turn, wait for it to stack up a bit. And Toxic Protect is real fun. So it also gives him another turn for leftovers, but again, it's not in range to live another Earthquake. Now, as I'm starting to get stacked up here, I don't have any leftovers on my end. The poison hurts, you know, and we're soiled over here. I realize I'm just gonna go for some more Earthquakes. I want to try to get some momentum in this match on my side, and playing defensively, screw it. I'm just gonna get some value out of the Quagsire, continue to hit stuff with Earthquakes, and they do actually swap back into the Venusaur here. Now, this is a type of warty frog that, you know, it does at least help with the hazards, and Earthquake is honestly, it's still neutral and it hurts a little bit, so I bring it down to about half, which is solid. So I mean, this thing does have the ability to just Giga Drain me, you get back up to full, which is not what we're looking for, but also the Toxic brings me down to the point where I'm like, this Quagsire is kind of screwed. That's what makes me think, you know what, I'm going to decide to get a little over prediction here. If they want to over predict and go for something like a Leech Seed, I can still do some great damage, but yeah, no, they just Giga Drain. That takes care of Quagsire and gives him a whole bunch of health back in the process, but it's fine. I got my hazards up, and with the Quagsire going down and me having a revenge switch in here, you know who looks real nice? is our special attacking little Wolverine buddy. And this is going to allow me to bring in the Weavile, who obviously threatens out the Venusaur, but also looking a few turns ahead. If I'm them, I probably swap into Arcanine. They get the Intimidate on the switch in, and then Weavile can't really touch it. So this feels like as good of a spot as any to bring in the Weavile here and go for a Nasty Plot. So they do end up swapping, which is great. And to my expectation, they do end up bringing in the Arcanine. So they're probably like, yeah, check this out. I'm going to intimidate your dumb physical attacking ass, and then you can't touch me, buddy. But on the contrary, I go for the Nasty Plot, and now I'm faster, barring an extreme speed. And you're thinking, I mean, even a Dark Pulse probably doesn't kill here. But that's why we got the Surf, baby. It's time to go surfing. And I outspeed. They do not go for the extreme speed. That takes care of the Arcanine. In that's probably the most satisfying thing about this Weavile set, is just having that Surf coverage after a Nasty Plot, able to take care of the Fire type. And that is great. So Arcanine out of the way does open the game up quite a bit for you, boy. And now, as they bring in the Quagsire, after the hazards, an Ice Beam surely is able to knock this thing out, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to bust out the beam, but they protect. They probably just, I actually really should have gone for another Nasty Plot here, knowing that, you know, they don't have anything that can kill me. Bit of a misplay on my end. Should have gone for a second Nasty Plot, but I was just really trying to get as many kills out of this thing as I possibly could. But, you know, they heal up with some more Black Sludge, and still they're not in range for an Ice Beam to kill. They probably think that maybe I go for a Surf, thinking, you know, they can water absorb it. But yeah, an Ice Beam just kills. Down goes the Quagsire. So we take out a clean little 2 with the Weavile, take some Life Orb chip, and honestly, we're positioned actually still really well against their squad here. So in comes Baxcalibur, and this is actually in range for an Ice Beam to kill. After a Nasty Plot, I'm pretty sure an Ice Beam is just a neutral hit that knocks this thing out. So that is what we're going to do, especially with that Life Orb. But instead, they're actually going to pull out the Terra. I was really hoping that they weren't going to have a defensive Terra here, but it turns out they're going to go full Terra Steel on my ass, and they put the axe on their head, which is unfortunate, because now, unless I get a freeze, there's always that shot. I can't grab a kill here. I go for that Ice Beam. It doesn't have enough to knock it out, and I also don't turn him into a Popsicle, which now allows them to go for that Iron Head. With the axe on their head, the Iron Head just hurts a whole lot, and that takes care of Weavile. But here's the situation. Them going for that Terra actually is kind of beneficial to me, because first of all, they use up their Terra, but second of all, going for the Terra Ice, or Terra Steel, puts it in a position now where a Mach Punch still actually grabs a kill here. So that's pretty good. I can just basically grab myself an easy revenge kill. I go into the Hitmontop. They actually click the Ice Shard, goes first because they're faster, but a Mach Punch is able to take care of Baxcalibur. So Baxcalibur, one of the scariest things in the back that we were worried about, I'm able to take care of not only that, but also their option for the Terra. And so now we got to see if we can pull this game back. It's actually pretty even at this point, but now they can bring in Blastoise. And Blastoise, whenever it has a matchup against something it knows it can take an attack from, I'm just immediately feeling like it's probably going to go for a Shell Smash. And honestly, a Shell Smashing Blastoise is real bad. So I decide, looking at what I have left, I don't really have a need to go for any other Terra. So I'm kind of open to just go for the Terra Fighting here. That's just going to give me a little bit of extra damage on our little dancing boy with the Mach Punch Technician boosted. It's extra stab now. And I'm thinking if I can Mach Punch it once before it gets a Shell Smash, and then again when it gets it up, I might have a chance to get a 2-hit KO. So it turns out that is not the case. It does not go for the Shell Smash, and they actually just go for the Surf. That tells me it's probably just a rapid spin kind of just support set, which is good for me. And now I go for another Mach Punch, which actually, you know, doesn't kill. But I get it in range to where it should be easy to take care of now. And I do die to another Surf. So thankfully, no Shell Smash at that point. And down goes the Hitmontop. We've both got our Terras used up. And now it's time to see kind of what my answer is going to be. So I decide I'm just going to go right into the Terrakion. You know, I outspeed this thing since it doesn't have any crazy smashed shell. And young Armpit over here can just finish it with a close combat. So down goes the Turtle. And now they've got themselves in a position where they're down to 2 Mons left. First, it's going to be the Venusaur, who does have some damage. And then they also have the Rhyperior, which I want to make sure I at least still have Inteleon for. So first, they're going to bring in the Venusaur. Now, I am choice banded into the close combat here, so I don't really want to click that. Also, knowing that a Giga Drain is just going to heal off anything I can do, and it's super effective. So I'm going to save the Terrakion. Great coverage against the Rhyperior, but also I can come back in later, and a choice banded Earthquake does a lot anyway. So the one thing that I do have left that doesn't mind basically as a sack here is going to be Bayonet. Poor little Bayonet. One day he's going to get his shot in the limelight, but I come in, I realized that this is kind of my best answer to basically just have something die to and then just be able to switch back in. So they go for the Giga Drain, and I take a whole bunch of damage from it, but more importantly, I actually get the Cursed Body, which disables his Giga Drain. And that's actually real nice, because now, you know, Bandite can go down, and then Terrakion actually has a way better ability to come in and not have to worry about Giga Drain. So I'm sitting at about, you know, half health, and I'm thinking maybe they swap here. I can try to get a Swords Dance up, but they're just going to go for that Earth Power, and even though it's not stab, it does get the crit, of course it does, and that takes care of Bandite, which is fine because I bring that thing in as a sack switch anyway. And now I really would love to try to capitalize on the fact that they cannot go for the Giga Drain there. So I have 2 Mons left. Obviously, this Inteleon's weird. First of all, I'll explain it later, but it doesn't have the greatest option against this thing. So first, I'm gonna bring in the Terrakion. Honestly, either would actually work, considering I have acrobatics on that thing. But first, I go Terrakion. I can go for an Earthquake here. I know that I should be able to live in Earth Power. I'm thinking Earthquake is a 2-hit KO with that Choice Band. It's looking real close, and it actually, after Leftovers, is not, unfortunately. And they have the ability to just knock me out with another Earth Power here. But I'm just going to continue going for Earthquake. Maybe I get a high roll. Maybe that first one was low. It is not. It actually lives it with 2 HP, which, because of course it does. And Earth Power is able to finish off Terrakion. And now we've got ourselves in a bit of a deficit here. I've got my final Mon being Inteleon. They have this Venusaur along with Rhyperior in the back, but they cannot Terra anything. So I do still feel like Inteleon actually is going to be able to pull this win back. So they are no longer disabled on the Giga Drain, which is fine, because as Inteleon comes in, all I've really got to do is just touch it and finish it off. So, I mean, they're not going to be able to get off a Giga Drain, which is great. And actually, I can go for the Fell Stinger here. That's right. I'm using Physical Inteleon because we're just switching shit up today. I can go for the Fell Stinger and just shoot him with my fingertip. And that is able to take care of it because I had like no health left. And that gives me a +3, the drastic attack raise, which is amazing. And now Inteleon with his skinny ass is over here ready to destroy this Rhyperior, who cannot go for a Terra. And Rhyperior is probably like, oh shit. So, I mean, the spikes do their thing. And at this point, at +3 physical attack, surely Liquidation is able to finish off the Rhyperior. And that is exactly what happened. So that was a super interesting endgame. And overall, just a good match in general. So that is going to do it. Inteleon's able to clutch it out. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching the video. I do appreciate all the support. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.